Good afternoon. I'm Samriddhi Kesi. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. Parliament session stall amid opposition pressure. Speaker holds talk while Lekhak promises response on visa controversy. Government moves to tap and export mining resources abroad. Powdal defends realistic budget. Pleasures boost in capital spending. Lee emerges victorious in South Korea's presidential race. Inter-Korean relations brace for a possible turnaround. And Nepal takes on Netherlands in crucial ICC World Cup League 2 encounter. Skipper Powdal expresses excitement as team gears up for the challenge. Both houses of Nepal's federal parliament were scheduled to convene today. However, the sessions did not commence as planned. Uncertainty continues to cloud the parliamentary proceedings amid ongoing protest by opposition parties who remain firm in their demand for the clarification from Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak. In the House of Representatives, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Bishnu Prasad Powdal was expected to present a proposal for general discussions on the annual estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2082-83, along with an accompanying statement. The session's agenda also included deliberations on the proposal and the tabling off of a report on Federal Civil Service Bill 2082 by Ram Hari Khatiwara. Speaker Devraj Khemire was to brief the House on proposed challenges to parliamentary committee memberships and responsibilities forwarded by the Office of the Prime Minister. However, with the meeting not commencing, these items remain pending. The National Assembly, which was set to convene at 1:15 p.m. also failed to proceed. Similar to the lower house, Finance Minister Powdal was scheduled to initiate discussions on the government's annual budget proposal in the upper house as well. As the stalemate continues, Speaker Khemire has entered into consultations with the Law Minister and Chief Whips of the ruling coalition to explore possible resolutions to determine the way forward. Meanwhile, Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak has stated that he will respond to the ongoing visit visa controversy in the Parliament. Now moving on, Finance Minister Bishnu Prasad Powdal has announced that the government is working towards creating an environment conducive to the extraction and export of mineral and river-based resources, including to international markets. Speaking at a program held in Kathmandu today, Minister Powdal stated that the government is moving ahead with plans to export mining materials with the aim of addressing the shortage of construction materials that has been hindering project implementation. He asserted that the recently announced budget has addressed many of the challenges facing the infrastructure development sector. Minister Powdal emphasized that the budget is realistic and well-grounded, claiming that no one has raised questions regarding its credibility. He also highlighted efforts to increase capital expenditure and stated that going forward, no projects costing less than 30 million Nepali rupees will be proposed for inclusion in the budget as part of a move to enhance budget discipline and efficiency. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has assured that the government will extend full support to ensure a victim-centered conclusion to Nepal's transitional justice process. During a meeting held last evening at Balwatar, the newly appointed officials of Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons, the Prime Minister emphasized that the government would not exert any pressure or interference in the Commission's work. On the occasion, the officials briefed the Prime Minister that they have initiated key tasks including public outreach for the submission of additional complaints following their recent appointments. They also shared their expectations with the government regarding budgetary support and infrastructure. The new leadership for the both commissions was appointed on 18th of May. The Gandaki provincial government has decided to temporarily suspend the implementation of the ride-sharing regulation, leading to the suspension of the ongoing protest by transport entrepreneurs. The decision follows intervention from the federal government after which Gandaki authorities agreed to postpone the enforcement of the regulation for 1 month. Coordinator of the Central Movement Coordination Committee for the Protection of Public Transport, Saroj Shitaula, and Senior Vice President of National Federation of Nepalese Transport Entrepreneurs confirmed that all protest programs have been called off and public transportation services have resumed from today. According to Shitaula, further details will be shared through a press conference scheduled for later today. The provincial government acted after receiving a formal letter from the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers agreeing to suspend the implementation of the regulation for a month. During this period, dialogue with transport entrepreneurs will be held to create a conducive environment for implementing the regulation. However, the government has clarified that the regulation will not be withdrawn permanently. Alongside the temporary suspension, the transport entrepreneurs and the provincial government have reached a 6-point agreement which includes provisions related to the regulation and other key demands of the transport sector. Whether it is the government or the leaders and cadres of political parties, a single complaint is commonly heard. The current generation fails to understand the hardships faced by the Nepali people before the establishment of the republic. However, neither the leadership nor the political parties grasp the youth's discontent. Political parties have not been able to explain the struggles that led to the republic and the suffering endured by the people during the royal rule to a generation that did not experience it. Youth who believe that this should be explained by leaders who have experienced those hardships appear dissatisfied with the current work being done under the present system.
A large section of Nepal's youth today appears disheartened, facing unstable politics, a lack of employment opportunities, limited entrepreneurial space, and sluggish and burdensome public service delivery. In this environment, youth frustration is at an all-time high. This sentiment is at times interpreted or even exploited by certain anti-establishment groups to suit their own interests. It is evident that the youths are not against the political system itself. Rather, they express discontent with its current functioning. They believe that lessons from the older generation must be meaningfully connected with the present one.
कुनै पनि सिस्टम या सरकार भनेको चाहिँ सही या गलत हुँदैनन्, तर त्यो सिस्टमलाई निभाउने, त्यसलाई लोयल्टीको साथ निभाएर त्यो सिस्टमलाई साथ दिने मान्छेहरूको चाहिँ ठुलो हात हुन्छ र त्यस्तै गर्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ अझै राम्रो विकसित देश या विकसित ठाउँ बन्न चाहिँ पुग्नमा चाहिँ त्यसले चाहिँ ठुलो हात पारेको हुन्छ. अनेस्टी, एउटा अनेस्टी हुनुपर्छ. अनि त्यसपछि अर्को भनेको चाहिँ सबैलाई इक्वालिटी भन्दा नि इक्विटीको साथमा डेभलप गर्दै जाने अनि सहयोग साथ दिँदै जाने हो.
The responsibility to address youth concerns lies with the political leadership. Yet many young people feel misunderstood as political parties and the state both seem to struggle to fully grasp their expectations. Regardless, the youth express a desire to move forward by bridging the gap between the old and the new generations through mutual understanding of the system.
So as per my very personal opinions, about not pinpointing to any political party or any political personals, but I believe youngsters there is more need in the political status, because looking into actually not just youngsters, I believe middle-aged people also, but the ones who are with good educational background are much more required, because there is a thing that differentiates, there's a thing that creates a gap between the literate and the less literate, or let's say the illiterate people.
Some youth argue that problems have persisted due to prolonged grip of older generation leaders on power. They call for a generational transfer of leadership, placing confidence in a more educated and globally aware new generation.
हाम्रो नेपालको पोलिटिकल र गभर्नमेन्ट सिस्टममा चाहिँ रिफर्म गर्न एकदमै आवश्यकता देखिन्छ. पहिलेदेखि गर्दै आउनु भएको व्यक्तित्वहरूले एक्सपिरियन्स त छ, तर नयाँ यंगस्टर जेनेरेसनलाई ठाउँ दिन, मौका दिन एकदमै जरुरत देखिन्छ. अनि यंगस्टरहरूले पनि पोलिटिकल भ्यू पोइन्ट र पोलिटिकल स्ट्यान्समा आफ्नो कन्ट्रिब्युसन दिन पनि एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ अहिलेको जेनेरेसनमा चाहिँ.
Freedom of expression alone is not enough to reassure the youth. They seek access to quality education, healthcare, efficient public services, and equitable opportunities for employment. For them, the Republic holds meaning only if these fundamental needs are met. Raised in the age of technology, this generation demands that the rights and freedoms of the Republic be translated into practical outcomes. Without inclusive leadership that reflects their aspirations, their frustration is likely to deepen. Political leaders often state that young people are not against the system. Many among the youth are standing against irregularities, not the structure itself. Yet, their genuine voices are frequently redirected and misrepresented. The new generation call for clear understanding and genuine engagement. A report by Deepak Acharya for Kantipur News.
It is time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse, brought to you by...
What's your take on the latest campaign by CP and UML leaders and cadres? Option A, fitting. Option B, defensive campaign. Option C, disregarding voters. And option D, prefer not to comment. Visit www.kantipurtv.com or www.ekantipur.com to share your opinion with us. It is time now for a short break. We have more news coming up. Welcome back. The agreement reached by the federal government with transport entrepreneurs on Monday to suspend Gandaki province's ride-sharing regulations has been found to be against the Constitution and the directives of the Supreme Court. This also means that the syndicate of transport entrepreneurs, which was declared ended 7 years ago by the KP Sharma Oli-led government, has been revived 7 years later under the very same KP Sharma Oli-led government. How did the government violate the Constitution and Supreme Court orders by making an agreement with transport entrepreneurs?
In a surprising midnight move on Monday, the federal government struck a deal with transport entrepreneurs despite the fact that the strike in the public transportation sector was technically illegal under laws protecting essential services. So what's this all about? At the heart of the agreement is ride-sharing. Yes, the kind where private vehicles pick up passengers just like a taxi. Some provincial governments, including Gandaki, had already introduced regulations allowing this. But now, the federal government has stepped in and asked those provinces to hit pause. The first point in the agreement says, since federal laws on ride-sharing are still in the works, the provinces should suspend their own regulations for now. The Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport was told to make this request official through the Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. And that's exactly what happened. The Prime Minister's office has already sent a letter to Gandaki province asking it to suspend its ride-sharing rules. But here's where things get controversial. Legal experts and critics are calling this move unconstitutional. Why? Because the Constitution clearly says that matters like transportation fall under the exclusive authority of the provinces. It's listed right there in Schedule 6 under point 20. In fact, Gandaki province had passed its ride-sharing regulations back in 2019 based on that very authority. So when the federal government stepped in, apparently under pressure from powerful transport lobbies, it overstepped its boundaries. Many are calling it a direct interference in provincial powers, undermining the very principle of federalism and separation of powers. But there's more. The Supreme Court had already told the federal government over a year ago to draft proper laws for the ride-sharing services. That directive came on the 20th of the Nepalese month of Chaitra in 2018. But 14 months later, no law has been passed. Only now, after pressure from transport entrepreneurs, has the government decided to recommend that the Home Ministry finally do something about that court directive. Critics say this is not just a legal issue, it is a sign that the government is once again siding with the old transport syndicates, and there is precedent for that concern. Remember, the Supreme Court had already issued multiple rulings in the Nepalese years 2061, 2067 and 2073 ordering the dismantling of syndicates and cartels in the transport sector. Responding to that, the government officially declared an end to the public transport syndicate system in Boisak of 2075, some 7 years ago. But now, with this latest agreement and the suspension of provincial ride-sharing rules, many believe the government is backpedaling. Under pressure from transport entrepreneurs, it's reopening the door for the very syndicates it once promised to shut down.
The Kanti-Lokpat highway will remain closed for 4 days starting today. According to the District Administration Office, Makwanpur, the closure is due to the installation of a Bailey bridge over the Bagmati River, which lies along the border of Makwanpur and Lalitpur districts. During this period, long-distance vehicles will be prohibited from operating on the highway. As an alternative, travelers commuting between Kathmandu and Hetauda are advised to use the Hetauda-Kulekhani Farping or Hetauda-Sisneri Farping routes. The highway will remain closed until the 7th of June. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.